on many fronts. One of which is connectivity. So it's probably best I stay off camera. We're a couple of G's behind the 5G in Australia. So can
Yeah.
you guys hear me okay?
We got you loud and clear. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. Um,
So
so did
Dylan,
you want me to give a quick intro, Shrek?
yeah,
Or-
I know you pretty well, but these guys don't know you
Yep.
probably from a bar of soap. So you're not like some guy on social media every other day. So, yeah, give these guys a little bit of an overview if you can.
Yeah, happy to. And you're right. I don't really do the social media thing too much, but well, I guess for context, well, thanks everyone for joining, and good to meet you all. And Tim, look forward to having you up here. My 11-year-old son who dives with me, he's pretty obsessed with some of the stuff you guys do and you Shrek as well. So they're probably as much a driving force behind this as anyone. But yeah, I grew up. I was born here in Rabaul, so we'll talk a little bit about the location we're at. But my whole family's my PNG family's based here. My Australian family, I'm mixed, is largely from North Queensland. So I spent a lot of time after being born here, growing up between both. My family's been in and around tourism for the last 40 years, starting with a little lodge in a town called Rabaul, which subsequently became Kokopo because a volcano blew up in Rabaul, which is the kind of thing you have to deal with out here. And so the town got resettled in 1994, and that lodge sort of grew into being what it is today, which is a pretty large resort, one of the largest in PNG, which is on Booking.com and Expedia. I think we have probably something like 100 plus rooms now. And in addition to that, we do a lot of tourism related activities. So a lot of tours, World War II type tours. There's a rich history here, cultural tours, dolphin swims. And we also do a lot of fishing stuff over the years, but historically more game fishing. But as I've gotten a little bit more involved in being a Spearo, we're doing a little bit more Spearo stuff in the last 5 years. Although I would say it's been more friends of mine, diving mates and groups that are known to us, as opposed to marketing more broadly. Um, that's a little bit about me. From a diving point of view, I've dived well since I was a kid. We used to do night diving over here and shoot little blackfish. When I was 10, 11 years old, through to diving in Australia, in Sydney for kingies and whatnot. And I spent 9 years in California, where we shot a lot of bluefin tuna, kingies, white sea bass, which is just an awesome fish to hunt. And so, actually, in fact, some of my California connections have come out and visited here as well from America, including last week. We had a group, and one of the guys has a pretty big online profile, Spear with X. Some folks might know, so he's happy to chat to people thinking about going across here. Yeah, so it's been a little bit on the spearing front, under the radar, and more focused around folks we know. And talking to Shrek a couple of years ago, through a mutual contact that did one of his courses, I just thought it'd be kind of cool to open up PNG a little bit more, and use, I guess, the skills that you have, Shrek, and Tim does in terms of group management with what we have on offer up here, which is, I think, frankly, some pretty awesome diving. I've been fortunate to dive in, I don't know, 10 plus countries around the world. And I think we have some pretty incredible opportunities here on the diving front. It's just a beautiful place up here and it's pretty raw. So
Mm, mm.
hopefully that's a bit of a background.
Love it. Any questions on Dylan's background or any about what he's talked about already? I've pulled up on this second screen. I've been sharing a little bit about this is the Kokopo Beach Bungalow Resort website page, and I just to give you a bit of an idea about what it sort of looks like and what's happening there. I'm on the vessels page right now, Dylan. I'm not sure if you wanted to elaborate a little bit about them. Can you see the screen all right, Dylan?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, and I know the vessels anyway, so I can talk. But I guess what we've sort of talked about, Shrek, is we're blocking out the 7 day period for all our vessels, and so whilst we want to use the big one, there may be days where it's better using the little, we call them banana boats here, the fiberglass ones like the center consoles. But we've got, starting from the top, a liveaboard Maritimo, which we ran up from the Gold Coast about 2 years ago now. That does a lot more game fishing. In fact, actually, as we speak this week, it's on a 7 day charter for marlin fishing in Kimby because it's the PNG national titles. So one of the things I did was I ran the boat up and we did that 6 day spearfishing tour on the way to delivering the boat to Kimby. So that was great, and that's a liveaboard boat. It's got three cabins. Each fits two, so two times two queens. Sorry, two queens that fit two people, I guess, per cabin, and then also a bunk bed cabin. Frankly, the most comfortable place on the boat is actually the lounge room area next to the
Yeah,
kitchen
right.
because that's where the aircon blasts in.
Yeah, right.
So you can sleep comfortably, six guests. Depending on how we do it, we can fit a couple more in as well. So that's a great boat, and that's got really long range, EPIRB, all the safety stuff you would need up here because it's not the sort of place where you want to take risks around safety, just given its remoteness. So that's
Yep.
been a great addition to our fleet, and it's going really well. So that'll be one of the boats that we use, particularly for the liverboard and remote component of the trip. But we can also use it on the start of the trip too if we want. Then we have a dive boat. We had a Rabaul. This particular area is known historically for its paddy diving and diving. Although actually just talking to a diver guy recently, I think paddy's actually, frankly, for some reason or not, slowing down, and talking to guys in the industry, a lot more people are just doing snorkeling now. But anyway, that's an aside, but that's a dive boat, traditional dive boat we brought up from Australia about 10 years ago. I like diving in that for zipping in and out because it's a bit easier to get it off, obviously, than the Maritimo. We have to take the tender off. But it's a really great boat with twin 250s on it. Lots of range. We can duck over to New Ireland, which is the other province, 60 kilometers away if we wanted to in a day. And it gives us additional, coverage with a bigger group. So that's a great vessel for us. Been around a long time, and actually, as we speak, that's on a charter as well, a 5-day charter somewhere else. So
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
the boats are worked well and good. And then separate to that, we have access to up to 4 banana boats, 3 of which we own and 1 we partner with, and they're just simple panga stuff. Generally, conditions are pretty good here. Certainly not like Australia. It's flat as a lake a lot of the time, and
Wow.
so the banana boats, we call them, like pangas. Basically, you can just run, and we can split the groups up, and we'll tow those boats as well and bring them out when we do the offshore component as well. So yeah, we've got a good fleet. We've got the can cater for different situations, and different areas, and lots of range. Yeah, so it's all there ready for us.
So cool. So cool. Questions on the vessels, guys? Tim, did you have some
No.
questions?
Mate, they look beautiful boats,
Yeah.
and obviously those pangas. Everywhere I've dove in the Pacific, and those pangas are just so easy to get in and out of, and just great boats. Always they ride so well in those areas.
Yeah, that's right, Tim. And I think one of the things I should say is, the potential, obviously, for reef shark encounters and whatnot. And so we like having the pangas because they can be right on you. And, I don't like when we take people, just my own personal view, to have too much fish in the water. And so we just basically, every time you shoot a fish, just dump it on the panga for safety.
Love it. Oh, good. I just wanted to share a little bit more from the Facebook. Um, if you type in Kokopo Beach Bungalow Resort, they've got a Facebook page. Dylan's got some happy snaps up here. Some of these look a little bit older. There's Dylan with a couple of his boys. Decent Spanish mackerel. What do you call a Spanish mackerel in PNG, Dylan?
No, we call the same Spanish, yeah.
All right.
Well, actually, the boys we only have 5 or 6 fish. There's like, trout, tuna, mackerel. So, but it doesn't delineate as much. But we call it Spanish mackerel.
Yeah,
They just
right.
call it just call it mackerel. Yeah.
And the resort, how long? Sorry, you did mention how long's it been open for, and how long's your family sort of had the reins?
Oh, been in and around tourism. The genesis of the resort was a guest lodge, way back in the 80s.
Okay.
So, but there was this particular resort, the Cockburn Beach Bungalows. It's now been 25 odd years, and it started out as 2 rooms. It was originally just bungalows, actually, like more of an
Yeah.
ecotourism, but it's now developed into a proper resort. So the 2 bungalows are now 80 plus rooms over the last 20-25 years.
Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
and you
this,
can check it all out in Expedia and Booking. It's PNG is very remote and very raw, so we do have one of the more premier resorts here. And I think this experience is interesting because you get all of the raw uniqueness of PNG. We're 20 miles away from. Once you're 20 miles away or 20 k's away, there's just nothing, and like no comms. But you can come back at base and have a beer at the bar and have a nice dinner and chef cook meal and aircon room. So it's I think a nice way to experience PNG in a land based way.
And you were saying like it's where the Australian Federal Police stay when they're in the area.
Yeah, well, can't name specific people publicly, but we have a lot of government contracts.
Okay.
And it's interesting as well. Actually, we have some American guys here now, and just to give you a sense of the remoteness of the area, we still get American soldiers coming through every couple of years as they rotate through PNG to search for bodies in the jungle.
Oh, wow.
And the guy was just telling me actually at dinner, they're still looking for 3,000 American bodies that are missing.
Oh, wow.
And, just stuff like that, it just shows how remote and how raw it is. And
Yeah.
still, from World War II, they just can't, they're still looking for bodies. So it's a pretty cool thing. And, we have a lot of government contracts staying with us. So in terms of safety as well, which I'm sure is a question or concern for people, we're extremely safe resort. There's nothing to really, we're in an area of PNG that's known as the New Guinea Islands as a region. Our province is East New Britain, and you'll have no security or safety issues staying here.
No
We have
worries.
a lot of guests here.
Dylan, we've just had a Queensland Fisheries officer drop in. Look, I'm glad he hasn't got jurisdiction over there because he's actually the bloke that's been responsible for the mackerel biomass assessments. So he's also the photographer on the trip as well. There's a lot of back history here, but welcome, Ben.
He wrecked it for everybody. and now he joins sitting naked in front of the camera.
You guys will get a sense of the banter that Ben and Tim have. We have a lot of fun. But Ben is, I don't know if you've seen some of his photography, but he'll be joining us for this trip. And because we're really wanting to capture what this experience is like. This is the first time we've run this PNG adventure. And the idea will be to just absolutely blow people's socks off. Because then we'll have awesome photos and videos to tell the story about this trip. Because my vision is to run this trip, a couple of times a year. And in order to do that, it'd be great to be able to share that story visually, and Ben's going to be a big part of that. But it's also like cool to have memories for a lifetime. If you do do a trip like this, it's expensive, and you just want to be able to have those memories forever. I know some of the trips that Tim and I have ran. One of the ones in particular with Ben. A lot of those guys are still active on our group chat, still talking to each other, still talking about the trip that was, because it was kind of, I mean, we jagged the weather and it was just an awesome time. But we're hoping that this trip is the same, So yeah.
I think that's awesome, mate. And like, I'm not a guy to do social media and videography and stuff, but having my mate Pete at Spear with X guy just capture a whole bunch of footage this trip. I think I've sent you a couple of things. I'm sort of starting to convert to getting my GoPro game together. I seem to not be able to turn it on at the right time and whatnot, and hear the beeping. So I think that's really cool for the people coming to also, watch yourself diving as well, and hopefully capture a bit of action on the fish front as well. Watch people shooting fish. So that's awesome.
Would it be all right, Dylan, if I share some of your screen grabs from this trip that you've just done?
Yeah, I don't mind. Yeah.
Oh, we'll get to it later. I would like to show these guys some of the stuff that you've seen. But we'll get to that in a little bit. Let's get into it a little bit more. So, guys, I thought the way we had structured the chat is kind of around the way the trip's going to unfold. So we'll just sort of walk through the itinerary. There's not too many of us here. If you want to ask a question, just fire away. But I thought, this isn't a sales pitch. We're just really just talking about what this trip is, how it's going to work, and then you can decide whether or not it's for you. This is for the people watching the recording or on this trip. Obviously, Julian, I've already got your money, mate. No refunds. Sorry about that. But everyone else that hasn't signed on yet, it's not a sales call. So just don't stress about any about that. Dylan, can you walk us through flying into Papua New Guinea from Australia, and then just talk about the flight situation and how you advise people to sort of navigate?
Yeah, we'll do. And we have a lot of guests, obviously, here coming from Australia, just because it's close. A couple of families here staying now, actually. So there's daily flights from Brisbane. There are, I think, twice weekly direct flights from Sydney, and I think twice weekly for Cairns, for those of you guys based in North Queensland. And when I say direct, it's from those destinations in Australia into Port Moresby. So all flights in PNG come into Port Moresby as the international hub. and they get spat out. So they come in usually between 11 to 12 a day, and they get spat out on the afternoon connection to whichever destination they're going. In this case, our airport name is Rabaul or Tokwa Airport. The airlines that fly direct internationally are Air Guinea and Qantas, and depending on which day it is and which time, so you just we'll have to check the schedule. But they're the kind of two main airlines. We would generally recommend using Air Guinea on the international component, because domestically you have to use Air Guinea, and if there are any travel issues along the way, having the same carrier usually results in it being solved a lot quicker. So, if there's a delay in the flight, or if the Qantas flight doesn't come, Air Guinea, potentially may not refund your ticket depending on which ticket you buy. But if it's an Air Guinea international problem, they'll solve it for you domestically, including putting you up at a hotel overnight and spitting you on the 5 a.m. flight to Moresby. So there does tend to be, full disclosure, travel issues in and around PNG. It's one of the frustrating things. So wherever equal or possible, I would say Air Guinea is probably the better option internationally. That being said, the Qantas ones still work. And if everything goes well, it's cheaper, or you can use points, then that's perfectly fine as well. So yeah, typically, like, let's just say it's Brisbane's the most common destination. You would fly out at whichever day it is, like 9 o'clock, arrive 11:30 into the international. We'll have one of our concierges that we have in Port Moresby to help people through the airport. And then you arrive at international, clear customs pretty quickly. It's a tiny airport, and you walk about 200 meters to the domestic terminal, all completely safe, of course. And then you would just basically check your bags in, probably wait 2 hours, and then connect to Rabaul. So I tell people, like, if you're leaving Brizzy, you have breakfast at the airport and you're having a beer, on our deck bar by like 5:30, 6 o'clock. So that's pretty much the day.
So September the 12th is sort of the day we're planning, is like the day when everyone arrives. It's not really we won't be diving on the 12th. It'll just be like getting there. You lose a day for travel, just getting there, getting settled in. But then the 13th we are up and about and heading out.
That's right. We normally get guys in the afternoon. We have a beer, pack the gear, bring it down to the dive shop. The dive shop's 50 meters from the room, so it's not a problem. Maybe pump the floats up. I've got a compressor here, and just get everything out, and then just enjoy the evening. Have a nice big meal, a couple of beers if you want, and then we'll get cracking at the crack of dawn. So yeah, that's a typical day.
Nice. And we've got it penciled in, Dylan, to the first sort of 2 or 3 days we're looking at doing sort of diving in and around the reefs fairly close to the resort. So using some of the Punga style boats and potentially the Caravas, is it?
Yep. Caravas. Yep. That's right. I think that's kind of, sorry.
I was just going to say, walk us through like a normal day's diving. What's the sort of time you get going? Like how does sort of your average day doing the local stuff work out?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what we do. And the beauty of this trip, I guess, is, open for feedback. And if you, team, others want to do something different, we're super flexible. It's basically just, everything's kind of available. I tell people, if you want to dive 8 hours in a day, we'll go ahead and do it. You'll be pretty broken. Probably can't dive the next day in the tropics. But what we typically do is we'll leave for a morning session. So, we'll get going at 6, dive 2-3 hours, and then come back for lunch at base. Or we could have a picnic out at the island and pack some sandwiches if people prefer that. And then, it's usually fairly quiet, 11 to 2, just kind of the way it is here. So we get usually like a morning session, recover, get out of the sun for a bit, hydrate, and then we'll do an afternoon session, like, 3 to 6, which in this particular area, the sunset sessions are just great. That they really turn on, particularly, the potential for pelagic action. So we'll do 2 dives a day, 3 hours. But if there are folks that really want to froth and charge, we've got the boats and we can be flexible. In terms of the first 2 to 3 days, they're reefs accessible from the resort. So, we can always come back, or we can stay out there for the whole day, but come back for dinner. So it's a nice, good way to kind of get into the trip, I guess, where you're still staying in aircon. It's pretty hot all day. It's humid here. And you're having all the modern perks, have a beer and soft drinks, whatever you want at night. and then but still getting some good diving. Within probably 50 kilometers of where we are, I was even less actually, 30 kilometers. We've got probably 6 different dive sites, which have access to kind of, most of the reef species you'd expect up here, very similar to the Coral Sea, but the Bismarck's a few nuances here. Like we get a little bit more of some and a little less of others, which we can go through later. You can shoot mackies, and, we do, I mean, last week it was a reef 20 minutes from here where we are, and we shot a small doggy. Not as big on the doggy fronts and pelagics because it's kind of in a reef, but they're there. And then that's kind of a nice, great way to get going. Acclimatize, still shoot a bunch of fish. Really cool sites, deep drop offs, shallow reef. One or two. If there's some advanced guys, there's 1 or 2 pins that come up from. You can look them on the charts from nowhere, like 2 kilometers up to 30 meters. But that's a bit more on the advanced front. So yeah, there's stuff you can do. I mean, I take my kid; he's 11 years old, and he dives 8 to 8 meters, and he still shoots reef fish, 20, 30 meters from here. So we've got all sorts of options locally, and then we can talk about, I guess, the offshore bit after. Yeah.
Cool. All right, so 3 days settling in, inshore, sort of fairly close to the resort, ranging out for sort of day trips or morning and evening trips, and then sounds pretty nice and comfortable, a gentle way to start the trip. And then we've sort of earmarked a World War II history and a bit of culture, and maybe a bit of a look at the volcano, Dylan. Is that sort of the plan still?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a lot of different tours, and happy if someone's interested in one rather than another to mix it up. So we run daily tours. There's not many places in the world left you can go up a volcano. It's currently stagnant. It's not active, obviously, but it's pretty cool to hike up there at sunrise. It's not a big hike. It's probably 30 meters up, and you look into the volcano itself. Although it's not active right now, but it is clearly a volcano because it was active 8 years ago. You can do some cultural tours. We've got a little bit of a surprise, I think, that night. Not surprise, but like one of our pretty cool, awesome local cultural thing to do. One of the famous traditions locally, but we have to go up to the village to do it because they don't perform it for cultural reasons at the resort. So that'll be an option for people too. That's a fire dance, which is really cool. So cool. And then awesome. Yeah, it is. It's really good. It's but you have to do it up there. They ban it from being out of their particular region. Yep. And then there's tons of World War II stuff. So we've got a museum nearby. We've got General Yamamoto's bunker. I mean, the Battle of the Coral Sea, the heart of that was also in Rabaul, and I think a lot of people talk about Kokoda and Gallipoli, but a big portion of the Pacific campaign was waged in and around here, and so there are wrecks kind of everywhere. We can snorkel over a couple, and Yamamoto's bunker. So for those that don't know, I'm a bit of a war historian. I love it. Was the Japanese general kind of responsible for the Pacific campaign, and his bunker's still intact. So you can go walk in there where he was basically commanding the Battle of the Coral Sea from the Japanese front. And then you got a bunch of other wrecks and other things like that. So we have multiple different tours. And I guess if people just want a day off Shrek, they can probably just take it. And to be honest, if people just want to dive half a day, we can do that as well. So we're pretty flexible.
I was going to say, I'm thinking Tim's might maybe keen for a day off there and just to grab a punga and fang off somewhere and maybe do some insane diving somewhere to get it to just get his bloodlust sort of settled. Would that be fair, Tim?
Oh, Shrek, I like just sitting my feet up and going for a gentle walk up to
the bloke does not rest. We ran a 5-day charter. We dove 10, 12 hours a day. And then we were shooting so many fish with 20 blokes vacuum packing and, portioning stuff up. It was still an hour and a half with 4 vacuum pack machiners going flat out to bloody get done. And then on the last night, he stayed up with the guys drinking pretty heavily. I mean, Tim wasn't drinking, but he kept up with them till 3 a.m. or something, had 2 hours sleep. I was done at 9. So
it's easy to stay awake when you're not drunk.
Yeah. But putting up with the conversation after midnight's the thing, Tim.
That was the funniest conversation I had the whole trip.
There's some good fellas on that trip, and by the end of the trip, you're all, pretty having a lot of fun. That's anyway. And cool. All right, so day 5, World War history. World War II history, a little bit of a day off. Just give the ears a rest and the body a bit of a break before we sort of head out a little bit wider, Dylan.
Yeah, so at the moment, and the good thing is, if I guess, like, weather's always a risk for every trip for people, but the way that we're located geographically is we have a south and north coast because we're right on the tip of the northeast tip of the region. So we'll have options, just so people know, I guess, no matter which way the weather goes. And you never actually get cyclones this far up. So we had that Aussie cyclone a week and a half ago, but we could still hit the north coast, which was flat.
Oh,
So,
so good.
so that's just something to be aware of. But the plan would be to go to the north coast, we call it, which has a huge horseshoe-shaped reef chain system with probably 30 plus different dive sites, and always something going on depending on which way the current moves and which, obviously, well, probably not obvious to folks on the call, but like the current can move around a lot here just because of where it is in the whole Bismarck Sea and the channel pushing on it. So it's not as consistent. So we'll just work the reef chains and find the pressure points, get after it. So that's about 120 click punch. We'll take the liverboard boat, and we have different options up there. We partner with some of the local villages. So we have a remote village, a remote kind of fishing cabin styles they have that they use that we can use depending on which way we go. And then we also have a plantation where we sometimes send guests if they want a plantation experience. That this area had a lot of coconut plantations, copra plantations. Now there's balsa wood, palm oil actually, and so we can stay there as well. In that harbour to your left there is where the plantation is.
And here,
in that one there, yeah. If you maybe just scroll out a bit. Sorry, mate. I'm just a little bit behind you on the Zoom with the connection. Oh yeah, there it is. Yeah. So
right tongue.
No, you scroll further left, mate, and there's a bigger bay. Yeah, so that's the bay where the plantation is.
Okay.
And then the outer reef chain is, even if you go out maybe on the Zoom, you'll see a big outer reef chain further west from where you are. Yeah. So the middle of that map is a big Blanche Bay, which we can either anchor or camp there if things get rough, and there's a plantation there. And further west is which way we're going. You can almost see it on Google Earth, some of the reefs coming out. Right on the tip there. Yeah. So that's the island you pointed at, which is fishing huts. But if you can see on Google Earth some of the reefs coming up in a almost horseshoe way. Yeah. So these are beautiful islands, Tulele, and we partner with the villages that own them. You won't see anyone out there, but obviously we work with them. There's some nice white sandy atolls out there as well. And there's just a ton of reef chain out there that's really cool to explore.
And is that you there, Dylan, on that boat?
I don't know when that was taken. High possibility. There is now a logging camp out there, and so it might be the logging guys. Unfortunately, logging's kind of finding its way everywhere in PNG right now.
Very cool. So you're sort of tucked in here in Rabaul, but
we're based here in the bottom right of that in Rabaul.
Yeah.
And that's where, but we have to make that punch all the way around the Cape and the volcano, and then head out to the outer reefs. So that's why it's more of a multi-day trip to get there. And I would say it's the same species, but just much more volume and, more size, and more options, right? Because there's just a huge reef chain. And so there's just way more spots, and there's always something happening somewhere. So it's good.
So good. Cool. All right. Heading off to the next sort of part of the trip. So you were sort of saying to some, like a couple were inquiring about potentially how rough are we staying at the plantation, and you've suggested that there are a couple of rooms aboard the Maritima that where if people aren't up for roughing it, then that could be an option.
Yeah, mate, I'm flexible. I personally like to rough it and get away from the world, and so I'll happily with my boys and others go to the beach and whack up a tarp and sleep on it. My wife won't do that. She'll be on, if we go, so she'll be on the Maritimo,
Yeah.
and it's got aircon. So yeah, I mean, I think, mate, we're super flexible, as you know. If there's a couple of guys that prefer one or the other, or everyone prefers one versus the other, then we can try to figure it out. So
Awesome.
we've got everything from roughing it with a sleeping bag on a atoll,
Yep.
all the way through to, like, there's shelters and huts to sleep in, through to the plantation, which has, a fan and mozzie screens, and there's a little bit of a more basic hut, but not just as raw as the village ones.
Cool.
Through to just staying on the Maritimo if people want. So yeah, I'm flexible, mate. Whatever you think works,
Cool.
or what others want.
What I'm going to do now, I'm going to just share with these guys a few photos that you've sent me just of recent trips, and then I'd like to sort of stop and pause for a bit of Q&A here if people have some questions about what we've chatted about. Tim's already itching to ask some questions, but let's just have a look at some pics. I hope you don't mind me sharing, Dylan.
Yeah, depending on what pic you're showing, you go for it, mate.
This is a red bass here, yeah. Ciguatera there.
No, we don't get Siggy like in Oz. I'll say two things about, a lot of the boys we've had it from America and Oz, but it's like, this is sometimes, and I live in Oz most of the time as well. It's like, oh, you can't eat this, you can't eat that. I'd tell you, like, we don't eat it, the local boys do. And a lot
Yeah.
of the fish you think you can't eat and don't shoot in Oz or whatever reason, like sweet lip, we just love it. So it's a lot how you cook it. And the sig is not a problem here. It's more of a problem in the parrotfish and some of the barracuda, which we don't eat. We don't get as big trout as this particular one that's in an offshore trip.
Yeah.
But the red bass we eat all the time.
Are they
And
good
it's a
eating? I've never eaten
fish.
one.
I think it's how you cook it, and I don't cook it, to be honest. Our chefs do, and so they do a pretty good job of it. Yeah, it wouldn't be. I mean, I wouldn't say it's my go-to fish.
Yeah. Is
Up
it
here,
is it a Lejanus, Tim? Is red bass a Lejanus?
Lejanus, yeah, I can't remember the last name.
Is it a little bit like a jack? Because I mean, they look like jacks. They're just different shape, and then obviously the eyes and.
Yeah, Lejanus Boha, I think is.
Yeah. Because they call them a boha snapper in parts of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, they remind me a lot of Cubera, actually. We shot a bunch in Mexico. I know they're not. But the jacks, we get the jacks too, and they look a little bit different. They're not quite as, I don't know how to say it, like, they don't have as much breadth on them. So yeah, we get both. The
jacks, obviously, you can flick the scales off easy. They don't get as big as shoulders. Like the jacks are usually a bit longer and thinner in the back end.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
That's the word I was looking for. Yeah. Yeah, no, they're fun. They come up, and like, I know there's people with different experiences, but I quite enjoy taking people out to shoot, the red snapper, red bass, because they come in on the chum pretty hard.
Yeah.
And so they're a fun fish to shoot. They put up a good fight. We eat them. And if you haven't had the experience of shooting reef fish, we can usually chum them up. So yeah, and they get to a good size here.
Good game of 21 blue spot there too, by the way, Shrek.
I was just going to say that Ben Reddy, I don't know if he's still in the call, but he is. He's got a shirt on now too, Tim. That's reassuring. Yes, we will have to fill the people that come in on this trip what that game was, but we won't have to worry about it in PNG. Do they have do you have slot sizes on any of the fish? Like, how are the fisheries managed there, Dylan?
Oh, I mean, I'll tell you, they're managed. The reality is you don't see anyone enforcing it. And so, like, villagers will be shooting tiny parrotfish for a living and for surviving.
Yeah.
There are some restrictions. Well, from a restrictions point of view, I guess there's some MPA areas we don't go to, obviously, that are World Heritage protected. Beautiful to snorkel, and we'll go there. There's also a couple of areas, the way the villagers manage their systems, they rotate some reefs. Which is kind of cool, and that's how they do it. So we don't go to the ones that are banned from diving. Most of the fish we'll come across won't have slot sizes, and it's pretty much go for it. The big thing we don't shoot here, you'll see a lot of, obviously, Maori wrasse. So a ton of them, actually, all the time, and they're amazing. and obviously we don't shoot those guys.
Okay.
And the rest of it, I just generally apply the Australian principles, even if there is not an actual, legal limit. Is just, let's not shoot tiny fish.
So Tim wants to ask the question. What about Queensland groper?
I was already devastated about the no shooting humphead and Maori wrasse. That's the saddest thing I've heard all night, but we can get through that.
No, I actually think it's isn't a banned. Actually, might even be banned globally. I thought, but yeah, no, sorry. The Queensland. Actually, I don't know the Queensland groper. I'm sure you'd like to plug a few of those because they come right up to you.
Oh, look, they grow as big as a bus. I don't particularly have much of an interest in shooting one. They are cool and iconic, and the little ones I've heard they taste good. But for some people that have an opportunity, I was just like, obviously we want to follow.
Oh, well, we don't get a lot of them. Sorry, I should have said where we are.
Yeah,
is the answer. So you're not going to see them. You're going to see a Malabar. You'll probably see the Malabar. Which is fine, but that's in other parts of PNG. You'll get the Queensland groper, probably the southern parts of the mainland. Yeah, so you won't come across it here.
In terms of ethics with fish, like you've mentioned, the humphead Maori wrasse, are there any other sacred things, or is there any other real etiquette around species or sizes that we should know about before we go, Dylan?
Not so much. No, nothing that would contradict what you have from Western values. So like I've been on trips with local boys and they'll shoot turtles. Yeah. I don't, obviously, and our guests won't. And they've also, shot dugong and stuff in some parts.
Yeah.
So yeah, nothing that, I don't think there's someone on this trip will go, I want to shoot that. The local says no.
Yeah.
It'll be the other way. It'll be the other way around, probably, if anything, from a values point of view.
It's just
completely
more
acceptable here.
Yeah, you just want to, like, as long as we're not going to accidentally tread on someone's toes by doing something that we do here, but it's sort of frowned on there. That's probably more my question. And that's sort of the same above and below the water. Obviously, like, when you're going to a new country and a new culture, like learning how to navigate that, sort of the do's and don'ts. And we might tune back in on that point again after we've gone through some photos, if that's all right, if you had some other things to talk about.
Yeah, happy to. Yeah, happy to go back on that. The do's and don'ts.
Is this close to the resort here? This photo?
Shit, I don't know where that one is, mate. But that looks like a typical day here. Could be anywhere.
Oh, so good. That looks beautiful. And this is a bag, Jack.
That is a bag. Yeah, I'm just looking at it. Oh, we got a long nose in there. Is it coral trout? Yeah, I mean, a typical bag will have 4 or 5 species in it from a session.
Yeah.
And we get a lot of. Well, sorry, I should have said as well. Everything we spear will get either partially donated to the area we're spearing in, but also come back to the resort. So everything at the resort is fresh produce. Yep. So, and we get a lot of, actually, just on species, we get a ton of midnight snapper.
Yeah.
Like just big schools of them all the time, and a lot of moo. So if you haven't shot a moo before, or a midnight snapper, it's probably a good place to come to. In fact, some of the guys shot some last week in less than 10 meters. So I'm not saying it's easy. Like, obviously you have to stalk it, but there's just the schools here are massive on those. So you'll see a lot of them.
So cool. So these some of your mates, Dylan, from a previous trip?
Yeah, there are a bunch of Northern Beaches divers actually. And yeah,
Sydney boys.
Just mates that would come up. Yeah, Sydney guys. And they it's funny because I guess people looking at this trip, one of the ways I think about it, I've been on dive trips and paid people myself, is you can get 6 or 7 days, however we go, of diving that's almost a full season in Australia for some people that maybe don't have a boat, so you can, that's the way I kind of think about things like this, is you can get so much dive time, blue water, shoot fish, progress, versus a whole season in Oz.
You're speaking my language, Dylan. Like a few years ago, Tim came over and helped run an intermediate course with me on Stratty, and we did a lot of the local reefs and stuff. And Tim said, look, the concept of this is brilliant, but it would just be way better in a more target-rich environment because, learning how to get better at spearfishing, it's just nice to be in the water shooting a lot of fish, and so that's kind of where some of our while we're looking further afield and some of these more remote adventures, it's an absolute, it's just a cool experience. And it's not common these days. I can't get out off Brisbane and do this. Not all
Yeah,
these,
I agree.
not the trout so much. Maybe Tim can, but I can't.
We got trout everywhere here, and if you've never shot one, you will shoot one. I mean, that's of all the species,
Cool.
the easiest. So, yeah. What's that? Oh, that's one of our captains, the boys, with a little doggy, actually, that we shot about 30 meters, 30 minutes away from our resort.
Nice. And there's one of those Sydney boys again. It's the same photo. There's the Maritima, and is that the volcano that we go around to head out around the corner there?
That is, yeah, and that's the one we can hike up as well. So it's a pretty iconic. Everywhere you go, you can see volcanoes here. In fact, down the south end of our island, 200 miles away, at night time, you can see lava coming out of it. It's just a very volcanic. Wow. It's the part of the Pacific Ring of Fire. So everywhere you go, you'll see an old volcano, a dormant one. So
cool. That's Air New Guinea. That's the airline that Dylan was recommending at the start of the call. He's giving me a shirt there that I look bad in. These a couple of mates of yours as well, Dylan?
Actually, that is not in our area. Just to be clear, that's a mate of mine, Layden, who's
he's going to come.
He's based in Port Moresby. He's available. He hasn't agreed to yet or done it, but I've talked to him. He's a good mate, and I'm sure he's just such a nice guy. He's got a big online profile. People probably follow him. Really good diver, also a free diver, so really safe. And he's based here, and I'm sure he'd be willing to come and help out and come and join us because
so cool.
Yeah, he's a big doggy guy. Actually, he's shot some really big doggies. If you've seen his profile pics.
Nice. And this was a recent trip. How big did this one go? Can you remember that photo?
I can. That was a week ago. That was one of those reefs very close to here, like 20 minutes away. I'm cautious about that because people always want to shoot doggies, so I don't want to kind of promise it's within 20 meters. 20 minutes away, but it was. And it was just one of those afternoons where there was just a bunch around, and I've got a spot that turns on when the current goes from south. And it was just one of those days where, there was a bunch around and some big max. So we didn't weigh that. I don't know. It's probably close to 20 kilos. Right. But it was a nice way to go.
And I think just to emphasize too, like we've never billed this PNG adventure as a dogtooth tuna hunting expedition. Like, Zach Schmidt is running sort of these small group boutique things where that's the sole focus of the trip. This trip is more of an adventure with potential opportunities to come across them. But like you don't want to give people false expectations, I guess. But we can field some more questions.
No, I think that's right, Shrek. I'm confident. I mean, just like last week with 5 guys in the water, we'll come across a lot of doggies, small size ones in the inner reef, like 10 to 15. And maybe 15 to 25 to 30 in the outer reefs when we go. But we get a lot of inquiries from guys now that just want to shoot doggies. It's kind of weird. The last 5 years, it's blown up, and even a guy from China emailed us the other day. I don't know what he's doing there, but he's like, "Oh, I want to come on charter your boat and shoot doggies." So that's not the inner reef. Just to be clear, you'll get some in the outer reef. And if you want a doggy tour expedition, this particular shot last week was an offshore atoll, which we're not going to, just to be clear. But it was loaded. And when you get to those real offshore atolls where there's no villages and pressure, high spots, it's just a matter of time. And you just find the pressure point. And we saw in that trip, again, it's not where we're going for people, but we saw 20 to 30 doggies, and we were only there a day and a half and lost a couple of big ones. I lost the float and all our gear on that one. Lost another big one to the tax man, and we landed a couple of small ones.
Yeah, cool. Very cool. Well, guys, Ben, you got any questions for Dylan while we're on the line with him? Todd, fire away.
Predominantly, what type of gear are you going to be using, like float lines or reeler guns, or what's the situation?
I think others can.
You go, Dylan. You go.
I was going to say, I mean, I think gear is kind of a personal choice for me. I've had a lot of guys come through, and it's what you're comfortable with. I would generally say a smaller reef gun. Reel if you're comfortable makes sense, but no problems if you want to, run a float, and then potentially a blue water gun. I've had people come that don't have the space or capacity or the equipment, and I have a couple of bigger blue water guns. People are welcome to borrow, but if you wanted just one gun, I'd go with like a double band 130. But generally, most guys bring a smaller reef reel and a bigger blue water float. But again, whatever you're comfortable with, and no right answer. I guess Shrek and Tim have a lot more experience on groups than
I could also bring over a blue water gun that we could share amongst if we're doing those blue water things. And so I could also bring one over that can be shared around. And I'm probably sure you've got one too, hey?
Yeah, I think I've got a Coatsman Devilfish I've been just begging to use at some point. But I think if everyone's packing blue water cannons, it's like if we do have some opportunities for some of this fringe reef and the conditions and people are up for it, I think we can share those guns quite easily. It'll just be like if you lose a shaft, you're paying for it. So whoever's gun, or if you damage it significantly, like we'll just make a gentleman's agreement to look after people, and if you're borrowing gear. But yeah, I like, because we've got those lake-like conditions, Dylan, I would suggest that a real gun, if we're doing some of that fringing reef, is probably pretty safe. But if it's a little bit more washy topside, or there's a lot of opportunities around for potential dogtooth, then I would suggest we should probably be running rig lines and floats, just because I don't like losing spear guns, and I don't want to watch someone's spear gun go away, or them not give up, on their spear gun, and potentially just start getting dragged down.
My preference, Shrek, in those situations, if we're thinking there's like targeting big Spanish, or I'm not sure if we even mentioned wahoo or anything like that, but obviously doggies, I prefer, if we're working together in a team of three, one person's got a big gun and the other guys are working together, and we swap around that within the team. Yep. All teamwork, best chance of landing a fish instead of old mate diving here, old mate diving there, shoot two fish, sharks eat both of them, and we're wasting really good fish. I think that teamwork gets more fish in the boat and a better chance of big doggies, or even small doggies.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think you guys will do a good job of that. I've had mainly mates or mates of mates come, so everyone says we'll be a team. As soon as you see a doggy, everyone runs off and does their own thing.
That's
why I would say one big gun in the water and the rest are actually working, and you swap. You work your way through that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing Tim's very good at, and we try to emphasize, we have debriefs every day, and the idea is like, we learn together and we work together. I tell these guys, like, the first thing I learned from Tim was, when you start getting beyond that intermediate level, teamwork no longer becomes optional; it becomes essential, not just for safety, but for landing more fish, particularly if there's a taxman around, and it just makes sense. It's actually more fun too when you do get used to it.
I totally agree with you guys, and the taxman is around here as well. The more, I guess, the stronger the pressure point, as you guys know, there'll be more reefies around. So, and just on the gear, like I said, I've got 2 blue water guns. So once the group gets locked down, and the 12 people, we can do a gear check. I've got a couple of floats, 3 ATM and some bungees and stuff, and I'm very happy to lend my gear and just replace the shaft if you lose it. So we can figure all that out as people sign up.
Awesome. Todd, did he answer your question?
Yeah, that's fantastic. And the buddy system, from my point of view, especially if I look at if I come, it'll be bringing my son, who's nearly 16, and I've spent a lot of time emphasising that safety component with him, and it's one up, one down sort of stuff, and so we're well and tuned into a team sort of situation. So that's actually comforting, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we do a bit of a debrief every day, and everyone's sort of learning together. It's pretty fun to watch, the penny drop. It's a little bit of feedback here, a little bit of feedback there, and then just self-reflection at the back end of the day. It tends to be a really good learning environment, especially if people don't have an ego and they're all teachable and there to have a good time and look after each other. Like, if everyone's got that vibe, it's so easy to have a good time. It's actually like yeah, I don't know how you couldn't have a good time if everyone's got those values.
And
Just
people
on
learn.
the
People have been learning, like when the self-reflection, the conversations around, we're talking to a guy, hey, this is your dive style, this is how you're making too much noise, this is how and we're talking those things through, like, hey, Ben Rennie, you're a fisheries officer, you're rector for everyone, and the self-reflection is really helpful.
I was waiting for it. I was like, man, we should tell some stories about how Ben Rennie's wrecked some fish for me. But
sorry, Todd, you were going to say something serious.
Oh, it's just on the experience level sort of situation. By no means my boy highly experienced. We're probably beginner to intermediate to a degree. I wouldn't get ahead of ourselves. We get in there as much as we can, but I think one of the reasons why we want to do something like this is to meet other people who know what they're doing more than what we do, and we just thrive on that listening and happy day. So I suppose I just wanted to understand. Didn't want to get all the way out there and be in the wrong group, if you know what I mean. Like we give everything a crack, but yeah, I just wanted to sort of touch on that. I have no issue if you say it's like more for intermediate advanced people. Maybe that's for us next time. That's fine. I'm
going to be honest, Todd. Like it is more geared towards intermediate plus, but I'll get Tim to share a little bit because we had a father-son combo come out on our intermediate charter last time. And Tim bruised his chest loading his spear gun at least 50 times in one session for this young fella. I tell you what, that guy, he shot 3 national records, junior records, and he had an absolute blast. And at the start of that trip, to be perfectly frank, they were definitely in the beginner realm, both of them. Fitness for Troy, the dad. Troy's actually coming on this trip. He's not bringing his son on this trip, but he's come back. But by the end of the trip, both of those guys saw dramatic improvement. And Tim might have a couple of funny stories to tell you because, like, just watching on, there was some chaos. It was fun.
And Todd, the young fella started trying to shoot a parrotfish. Like he just was trying to shoot anything, a trout. And as Shrek said, I'd literally just reloading for the kids, swapping guns between us and just keeping on reloading. But by the end of the trip, the kid didn't need that. He'd learnt so much, and he was going from shooting from the surface to by the end of the trip hunting fish, and obviously his dad. Everybody on that last charter, again, the target-rich environment. I would say 30% of the people on that charter started at intermediate and moved to shoot incredible fish. 30% started at beginner level and moved.
Yeah.
Intermediate and beyond, just because of the target-rich environment. As Dylan said, coral trout, red bass, mangrove jacks, like midnight snapper, those fish right there move. If you spent 7 days targeting them only, you're going to improve significantly. You're obviously going to have fun together, and you're going to learn a lot.
Yeah, that sounds spot on.
Yeah. Each one of those species requires a little bit something different too. That young fella Max started the trip, he's shooting tiny parrotfish, just whatever he can sort of get onto. By the end of the trip, he's swimming past 2.5 kilo coral trout, in pursuit of something better. So it was funny seeing that shifting baseline, just going from that scarcity, like I've got to shoot everything that moves mentality, towards being more like, I can shoot that any day of the week. I actually want that fish over there instead. And so, started off as a slayer, and then by the end of it actually became fairly skilled, and like he took three junior records, which was bloody awesome. I think he's registered them all too, hasn't he, Tim?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, we'll find out from Troy, because Troy's already signed up on this trip, and so yeah, that'd be good. Ryan, did you have any questions for Dylan or us?
Not really. I think it's pretty exciting. I think sounds like there's a massive range of options for all levels, and the ability to split, which is really cool. I think from a gun point of view, I like the idea of sharing the bigger stuff. Just why would we all carry something where only one of us can use it at a time when we're talking about floats and larger guns? So that all sounds good. Wetsuit thickness?
Yes, good question.
Or at all?
Dylan? water temp and what will like so September, mid-September, what's our sort of normal water range temp and even the ambient temperature?
Yeah, we're pretty much bang on the equator here, so it will run. The water will typically run 28 to 32 degrees. Let's just say throughout the year. That time of year, it should be like 29 to 30. It's coming out of winter, quote unquote, although it's not at all. And and the surface temperature is going to be hot as balls, basically. So 30 degrees. I guess it just depends on how you run. I mean, in the last week we had a group, and one guy was diving in board shorts and a rashi, just like a flimsy rashi. One guy had his 1.5 mil suit on. I would say for a week's diving, I like my boardies. I've got pretty dark skin, but having the pants is still a good idea, as you guys know from sun and potential sea lice or small jellyfish or whatever. Not that there's a lot of them, but in a week you'll come across some itchy bites. Yeah, so it really kind of depends, but the typical setup would be a long sleeve 1 mil or rashi, and then pants to match, or even boardies, depending on how you run, if you run hot or cold.
Yeah, awesome.
What's the coral like there, Dylan? Like, do you get fire coral and nasties when you're laying on the bottom and deeper water hunting reefies?
You can in some spots, but not massively. The coral here is beautiful. Some spots we don't even dive on it, like the fan coral. And I tell people that's one thing I'm big on, is you don't even shoot above it.
Yep.
We're going to go to a couple of spots where, again, it's a lot of spots here are famous because of paddy diving, and there's just beautiful fan coral. Like it's like Avatar. You could just look at it and not even spear. Yeah. So it's really healthy ecosystem here.
I love those big.
But yeah, that's another
Gorgonian
reason to wear
sections. They're
pants. Yeah, and but that's another reason to wear pants. I guess if you are a more advanced diver and like bottom time, then you probably are wearing pants.
Yeah, cool. Did you have anything disparaging to say about the Queensland Fisheries Management, Dylan?
Oh, just keep it up there. Leave the Mackies alone here.
Hey, Dylan,
regulate all you want. Regulate all you want in Queensland, but yeah.
By the way, he has nothing. He has nothing to do with that side of it. He's a normal fisheries officer. But
I'm joining the banter, probably uninvited.
I love it. Throw it.
Anybody's welcome.
Dylan, what sort of tides have you got over there? You got pretty big tidal variance and big run, or like what do you sort of deal with?
Yeah, I wouldn't call it huge variances. Like, it's pretty surprising to get a massive king tide that shocks someone here. So you're right. We it wouldn't, nothing shocking. The best time actually on that note, is obviously an incoming tide, probably like in Oz. So, but the spots we're going to, particularly the outer reef, the way it gets hit, it's like a bit of a washing machine, I guess, at a macro level, that the current kind of spits left to right sometimes and right to left, and can move, like one spot moved 3 times in an hour, that we were on last week. So yeah, not massive, huge tides, just pretty standard up here.
This is Dylan's mate, Lath. We're going to potentially have him as a guide as well. But, as he mentioned, we haven't really lined him up for it yet, but he's based in Port Moresby. Are any of these photos taken with you, Dylan, or where can I find some with you?
Shit, I don't know. No, I won't say where these are. They are in PNG, but just because I haven't spoke to him about it, and but I know where these are. And they're probably he's actually based in Moresby, and some of these spots actually, some of these spots are actually the big doggies. Like I said, the big doggies are in a different part of PNG. If you wanted to do a doggy only trip. And that's where I think that Zach Schmidt's obviously doing some cool stuff and opening it up a little bit. So I think between Zach and Leighton, they've kind of put PG on the map for big doggies, which is great. But that's in a different region to ours. Ours is probably more general diving, reef diving combined with some blue water and stuff.
Nice.
Whereas those spots you go to, they're remote liveaboard boat type stuff, and probably a slightly different trip.
Yeah, cool. Love it. Love the clarification too. Awesome. Ben, as a photographer, do you have any questions with that sort of thing?
nothing major. Like obviously there'd be a bit of figuring out just once got feet on the ground over there. Yeah, pretty much all I need is PowerPoints overnight, and I'm pretty sorted.
Cultural taboos, Dylan.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Just for anyone, like it's not our culture. How can we avoid putting a foot wrong?
I would say, firstly, we're in the islands region. Just taking a big step back, a lot of people hear a lot of negative things about PNG and safety, and a lot of that, frankly, happens in the big cities like Port Moresby and to some extent the Highlands region on the mainland. That's not to say that there's no issues here, but we're in the islands region, and by default, people are pretty welcoming and actually usually very interested to meet new people from Australia. And so, no major taboos other than just apply the be a good bloke and be a good person principle. Nothing you would like, it's not like a Muslim country or anything where you might do something that aligns in Western values but doesn't align in traditional, sort of Muslim values, for example. Just to use an extreme example, there's nothing like that. It's a Christian country. So everyone's, super respectful. Sunday's a day off for most people. Just be a good bloke, honestly. I don't think there's anything major. And I guess for women coming across, just be aware of that. It's a Christian country and dress modestly. That's not to say my wife walks around with shorts and a t-shirt, but don't wear a bikini through town like you might in Byron Bay. Yeah, nothing like that. And when we go to the islands, outer atoll type regions, we like to bring stuff for them, and we're very community involved. So we'll bring donations and stuff. And if you want to, I always tell people, if you have, it sounds stupid, but you have secondhand clothes, want to bring some t-shirts you want to get rid of and shirts and shorts, that's such a basic item. But for people that have nothing and lack of access to transport, that they just love it. We did that last week. We brought a box of clothes with us. So yeah, I mean, I can't think of anything that a decent, normal bloke, call it, would do.
Yeah,
it would offend someone. Just be respectful, and if we do the cultural tours, we'll talk about what we can and can't do. Like the fire dance is a place for them where it's very traditional, spiritual. No one will be stupid enough to go run on the fire, for example. But yeah, just be respectful. Yeah.
All right, cool, guys. I'm going to circle back to you if you have any more questions. So just make a note of them. I'll come back to you in a minute. I did want to deal with some more common, I think, concerns about the trip. I think the big one is like, $7,500 is a lot of money for a trip. And it is, and then you add flights to it, you're looking at $9,000. But I will say, like, if you compare this to, booking a trip yourself with no local guides like Dylan, no Tim McDonald, no safety net, safety planning, no photographer, you'd probably spend the same amount of money and get half the experience. So, if I'm honest and upfront, it is an expense. But I think, we'll be doing everything in our power to make it a super memorable trip. That is the vision and goal behind every one of these things. I think Dylan's gone a long way to answering concerns about safety in PNG. There are some stereotypes and stories about that. As he sort of mentioned, like where they are, it's incredibly safe. They have a really great reputation, and they've built goodwill in those communities over decades. They're not some fly-by-nighter mob out to make a quick buck. They're there embedded in the local culture, and they've built all this reciprocity that we're able to tap into when we go there. And I think the other thing, we've built this trip as a potential teething trip. I would say, from a teething point of view, it's the first time Tim, Ben, and I have gone there to run a trip. But Dylan's been running these things for around 5 years with larger groups of mates and so on. So he's very comfortable with his setup and his operation. I don't think we're going to have as many teething issues as we might have, because we're not going in there full green. We've got Dylan there as a guide, and he's an experienced spearo himself. So I think that's pretty cool. I think another common sort of conception, I hope we've gone some way to reassuring people, is like a lot of people wonder if they're good enough for this trip. And, if you're starting more at that sort of beginner, lower intermediate level, I would suggest that we're definitely going to be able to cater, particularly those first 3 days. They're going to be more of a gentle thing where we'll probably be looking to help you build some skills, get some dive fitness going, and then we'll put some runs on the board. And I'd say you'll come out of the trip a better spearo than you were when you went into it. And you might think I'm going diving with Tim McDonald. He likes to flog Tom Sandstrom and Shrek and dive 30 meters for the morning. And then when they're wrecked, go and dive 50-meter pinnacles by himself. But, like he doesn't have an ego about anything. He's happy watching people plug trout and high-fiving them as much as he is with the other stuff. Hi, Wendy. Tim's wife in the background there. So that's kind of it. Hi, Wendy. Awesome. Thanks for lending us your husband for a week.
Nice to meet you all. I will leave you to it. Here, I thought he'd finished. So.
No, I was listening.
We're nearly done. Guys, we are sort of wrapping it up. We've got 10 spots left. It's a $2,000 spot to lock in your spot. There's no pressure. There's no real urgency. I'm pretty confident that we're going to move this thing along. There are a few pressures happening in the world at the moment with fuel prices and so on. So it's potentially not a great time to make a run at this, but we're pretty committed. I've been wanting to make this trip work, and I've had it sort of earmarked with Dylan. Him and I have been planning this thing for a few years actually. So it's nice to finally put some wheels on it and push it down the hill. Questions, concerns, Julian?
Are we bringing any fish back?
Dylan?
Yeah, you're welcome to. Yeah, we don't have vacuum seal, but we can pack them up. You'll have to bring the container though, or buy a cheap esky here in town. But yeah, you're totally welcome to.
Do you travel backwards and forwards with fish, Dylan?
I do. Yeah, I do. I don't like buying and, well, not from a cost point of view, but just from a quality point of view, fish in Australia. So all my fish is fresh from here or Australia.
From an Australian customs point of view, you're allowed to travel with up to 10 kilos of vacuum-packed fish. They're a little bit weird with liquid ice in a bag, but if it's sealed ice packed around the fish, you're pretty good to travel with it. If you're traveling with whole fish, you're also allowed up to 10 kilos, but obviously you'll lose a lot of yield if you're bringing back a whole fish. So we might maybe even bring a vacuum packing machine for you, Dylan, and donate one to the operation there.
That's a great idea, I reckon, Shrek.
Yeah, maybe a couple.
Yeah, welcome to. We have a deep freezer, so I tend to just deep freeze it. Doesn't even need ice, and you leave here on the flight back. You leave here at 7 a.m. So you pick it up first thing, and you're back in Brizzy or wherever by the afternoon. So it holds pretty well.
Nice to take home something to eat for the family as well.
Yeah, for sure, definitely.
After doing that, awesome.
On top of that, obviously, Dylan, everything else we shoot, we're able to share with villages, etc. Hey.
Yeah, we donate a lot, depending on what we get, and if you do, we didn't talk about sailfish, but we do have some sailfish. I don't shoot them myself, but they're definitely up for grabs if people want to. If people want it, we can do anything, whatever you guys want, really. We've got the boats. We could even do a marlin day, but obviously sitting on the back of a boat for the whole day. But anyway, the point being, when we shoot those, we give them to the church. So whenever we catch, I say that because typically we catch them marlin fishing. If they die, if we can't tag and release and they die, we give it up to the church. So everything will go to good use. Every type of fish that we shoot, even a surgeon fish.
I love surgeon fish.
We'll use it.
I love
you'll shoot. I mean, they're endemic here, and they flare up and they're pretty big. So,
so good.
Yeah, plenty of those. Yeah.
Awesome.
Do you have vermiculated, Dylan? Vermiculated trout?
Actually, in fact, Tim, they're the most prevalent one where we are. So, yeah, that'll be the most common trout we shoot.
Cool.
The coral is a little bit south. We get some of those. You get the other ones like footballer and a few other things. But yeah, the vermicula is the most common one where we are in our particular area.
Awesome.
So cool.
I shot a few of them over in Solomons, and obviously it's so close from you guys to Solomons.
500 kilometers, isn't it, from you to the edge of the western side of the Solomons, Dylan?
Oh, sorry, guys. I just lost you for a sec. Was that a question for me?
Tim was just saying, like, you know, he's shot a couple of vermiculated in the Solomons. I said they're only 500 kilometers from you, Eastern Solomons, aren't they?
Yeah. We're actually not far. It's just we're the island region, and we're like in the middle of the three big ones. So Bougainville, New Ireland, which is where a lot of people surf in PNG, and New Britain, where we are. And then just Bougainville, the one I mentioned, is really almost ethnically and geographically more Solomon Islands than anything. So it's right next to it. Yeah, so it's cool. not that bad. Yeah.
So cool. All right. I reckon we've had a good
Just
chat, guys.
The donation side of stuff, Dylan, like taking things over that are hard to come by or they're pretty valued over there. It's stuff like, you know, bits and pieces of fishing tackle. If we were able to take some of that over and for some of the remote island crew, is that something that's pretty appreciated over there? Or
Yeah, I mean, honestly, everything. We sometimes lose perspective because we're at a really nice resort and the guests come, but it's anything. It's a really. I mean, PNG is like stepping back in time 50 years sometimes. I don't think time stopped, but it's slowed down. I hear people go to Fiji and say it's, it's 20 years behind Australia or whatever, or 30 years, but it's another 30 here. So the other thing is, if anyone coming has any form of medical, um, what do you call it, like background or connections. I had a couple of doctors last year, and we actually bring a lot of stuff for the hospital up here as well. So anything you might take for granted. I mean, even toys we give to the kids in the villages. So yeah, if you want to get rid of some stuff at home instead of some vinnies, or just bring it up in a spare suitcase, everything gets kind of put to use. There's some pretty, raw remote places here. I mean, some places just live off solar that the government installed with no cellular connectivity. So
wow.
Yeah, anything you want, mate, is cool. Not so much in the town we are, but you go 30, 50 kilometers out, or out to sea in particular in the islands, and they'll take anything.
So good. Guys, I'm conscious of time. I really appreciate everyone hanging around, and I think we've given it a pretty good coverage. I'm excited about this trip. I hope we're just surrounded by legends. Well, I'm pretty spoilt. Tim and Ben are such fun guys to hang out with. It'll be cool to bring Julian as well, because I've done a bunch of stuff with him. And Dylan, really looking forward. I mean, we've only met in person once, but we've been chatting backwards and forwards for a couple of years now, so it's going to be cool to pull this thing off. I'm really excited about this, and unlocking, like a regular routine trip that we can sort of run a couple of times a year. I think it's going to be fun.
Oh, I'm pumped. I'm pumped to have you guys up here. We'll put on the best of PNG, and we'll have a good time. It's a really good crew, and whether it's 2, 5, 10, 12, whoever comes, we'll have a good time and get plenty of water time. So that's gonna be fun.
Awesome. If there's nothing else, guys, or if you just want to follow up, email me shrek@noobspirit.com. Happy to follow up with any of these guys and with anything specific. And I'm probably going to put the video on YouTube as well. So if guys want to ask questions in the comments, I'll do my best to get to them as well. But if you want to know more about it, go to spearfishingcourses.com.au/PNG. And I'm looking forward to, this trip, September 12th to 20. Hit me up if you want to lock a spot in, or go to spearfishingcourses.com.au/PNG. Otherwise, I think we're out of here, guys. Legends.
Thank you.
Good work, team. Yeah. Thanks, Shrek. Thanks, boys.
Oh, good.
Hopefully see you guys up here soon.
Thank you.